Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things you love. It's Tuesday, the 5th of August. I hope you are locked in. We have a transfer news, views, and clues update for you. That's what we do here. Yesterday, I put out a video that was talking about the opportunity that presented itself through difficult times with James Maddison's injury, the chance to go and sign someone like a Rodrigo, not necessarily a Rodrigo. The thumbnail, of course, was talking about an £87 million or €100 million bid that, according to reports yesterday, were out saying that Tottenham had made. Whether or not the player accepts Tottenham, wants to come to Tottenham, whether or not there's any truth to it, who knows? But this morning, that story is out everywhere else. Yesterday, it was in Fajaysh's and in Give Me Sport. Today, it is out everywhere. All on Twitter, it's in Caught Offside. It's going around the houses. And so it kind of leans you back into this notion that whether or not there's truth to it, that Tottenham do have money to spend. And whether that's the right way to spend it, we can discuss. There's other talks and stories out regarding Kolo Muani that we are front and centre. That's from Graham Bailey to sign that particular player, a versatile forward. We'll talk about him as well. And we've got stories about Jack Grealish. We also have stories, which is an interesting one, guys, around 10 loan players, I believe it is, that are all immediately up for loan. Some of them already resolved and secured their spots last night or yesterday. And again, this notion of taking things on face value and leaning into the logic and the thought process behind it leads you into some sort of conclusion that Tottenham must be either insane or they are moving in the direction of buying up some young players on the back or some new players. On the back of that, we have stories out regarding a certain Barcelona superstar generational talent that is being banded around for the last couple of years by the name of Marc Casado. And we'll talk about him as well. Guys, please do like the video. If you enjoy the content, hit the subscribe. If you haven't already, hit the notification bell and drop a comment or two. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. Let's start with the youth players. So we heard yesterday that 9 players, I think, or 8 players rather, but it turns out that about 10 now of our youth talent are all up for loan and most of them have found new homes already. Tyrese Hall has just gone on loan to Notts County from League 2. George Abbott we already know, has joined Rangers on loan. Jamie Donnelly, it looks set, apparently, according to reports today, to join Stoke City, who finished 18th in the Championship last season. Ashley Phillips, we know, is already going back to Stoke as well. Yang apparently is linked highly with Portsmouth in the Championship. Will Lancashire, last night we heard, has joined Oxford United in the Championship as well. JA has joined Doncaster Rovers in League One. Alfie Dorrington, we know, is going to Aberdeen. And so I think the only 2 players that are left to figure out their homes, I think I might be wrong about this, but off the top of my head, is Luka Viskovic, who's a curious one. I'm not sure if it's the right decision to loan him out because, as I say, there's only 3 things that are certain in life, guys: death, taxes, and that Tottenham are going to get injuries. And when you're loaning out all of this talent, look, some of them are not going to play. Some of them aren't ready. But when you're thinking about what we had before, which was a very bloated squad, of which several players now are falling down to long-term injuries. We know we have no Radu Dragusin for months. We know we have no James Maddison for months. We're not even sure, to be honest, when he'll be back. He's certainly getting, there's problems in that right knee, isn't it? Or is it left knee? I'm not sure. But there's certainly problems there. I'm not sure if we're going to see the best version of him anytime soon or maybe ever again. And we know that, obviously, Decky is also out injured. Manor Solomon's out injured, probably on a short term, or hopefully, but who knows with him. And we also have Dominic Solanke as well out injured. So Tottenham Hotspur, 8 days away from the Super Cup with PSG, and only, 12 days away now from the start of the Premier League season. They're taking a giant risk here. Suddenly the kind of B team or the under-21 team that can filter into the into the Champions League squad, for example, suddenly those options look a little bit dry. We obviously know that we don't have those 4 club trained. We only have one in Brandon Austin. And so it leads you down this path, guys, of thinking, well, why are they doing it? Why are they getting rid of all? I understand getting rid of some some of the people that aren't going to play, but at the top end of that talent pool, people like Jamie Donnelly, people like Mikey Moore, people like Vescovic, maybe Will Lancashire, is there no justification? Now, you either land on the idea that none of them are good enough in Thomas Frank and in Cochrane's mind, and that the guys are just not ready and they need to go to the Championship first and then see how they get on there before they come back next season. You would hope that some of these loan moves have been approved with pullback clauses if there was to be some sort of injury crisis that took place in the season, so we could get them back in January. But apart from that, guys, the only other conclusion that you can lead to, if they're not good enough or that we're doing it to get them minutes because they won't otherwise get them, and you have to think about the players' progression as well as your own club's best interests, the only other conclusion that you can land on is that Tottenham do have a lot of money to spend and that do have intentions to get things done over the next few days. And you really do hope that we get some bombers dropping over the next sort of 24, 48 hours to give those guys, if not to play against Bayern Munich, but to get them enough time to hopefully get some minutes in PSG ahead of the Burnley game. So we're going to talk now about some of those stories, guys. The first one we're going to come to is Give Me Sport. I know some of you in the comment section always react when I bring up Give Me Sport. They say, give me a break. But look, it's news. If it's in the news, I'm bringing it to your attention. And the story says that Tottenham have made contact to sign £300,000 a week star Jack Grealish. Now, this is a player that I wasn't particularly keen on sort of a few weeks ago or a month ago. Not because I don't think he's a great player, not because I think he's a bad egg or any of those sorts of things. I was just hoping that Tottenham could go in a different direction. I had high hopes for an Eberechi Eze. Maybe there's still time on that one to resurrect. Starting to hear some sort of rumours around on Twitter that maybe there's still some hope there, and that with Arsenal moving in a different direction and looking at players like Rodrigo, looking at players like Ademola Lookman, for example, who was a player that I'd love Tottenham to go and get as well, if they can hijack the move to Inter Milan from Atalanta. But Jack Grealish was sort of fifth or sixth on my list of priorities or options, just because I'm a little bit concerned whether or not, having ticked all the boxes in his career, having won everything there is to win apart from an international trophy, I'm just wondering whether his motivations are still there. Obviously, there is the World Cup coming, and if he is fully motivated and fully invested in this particular year coming up to try to get back into the World Cup squad, then maybe at best a loan move would be the right way to go. And the story, of course, does talk about that. It says, just quickly, Tottenham are exploring a potential move for Manchester City striker Jack Grealish. Journalist Ben Napton has claimed the Europa League winners have reportedly submitted an immediate inquiry by the former Aston Villa forward following James Maddison's injury blow. Spurs lost a 28-year-old midfielder to a severe-looking injury. Yada, yada, yada. It does say here that the diagnosis of Maddison's injury is yet to be confirmed. According to Napton, Tottenham have made immediate contact over a move for Grealish after Maddison's injury and are believed to have leapfrogged Napoli in the race for the 29-year-old. The Serie A champions were previously seen as the top contenders to sign Grealish before the transfer deadline, but are claimed to no longer be frontrunners, with interest from the North London club now emerging. Now, for me, a permanent deal, I think, is too much risk. I don't think we'll take on those wages. We do have room in the budget if Tottenham were to finally break the wage structure. As I said yesterday, if you were to go and do it for anybody, I used Rodrigo as the example, but anybody of that caliber that wants $250 a week or higher, there's probably never been a better time than to do it now, because there isn't that many players, or no players, bar the one player that you do want to sign a new contract, who you probably wouldn't mind giving that money to if it convinced him to sign, that would knock on the door of our owner or our chairman and say, if he's getting that money, I should be getting that money. There's nobody else at the club that can command that sort of conversation apart from Romero. And so if you were to sign a Rodrigo, I don't think that Jack Grealish deserves that sort of cash anymore. But someone like an Eze, someone like, insert whoever there, Kolo Muani, whatever, then if those conversations were to take place, it would be of double benefit to Daniel Levy, as he could say to Romero, of course, you can have that money, but you have to sign a new 4-year deal plus one. And that to me makes the most sense. So in terms of timing, in terms of the kind of collateral damage of signing a player on massive wages, well, right now, you're not going to have anybody that has the ability to command equity in that sort of situation. And so it makes a lot of sense. As far as Jack Grealish, personally, I think a loan deal would make sense of either option. Permanent deal, I don't know if there's enough energy or enough gas left in the tank from him after the World Cup. Is that if he wasn't to get selected for the World Cup, would his head drop and kind of, not be as motivated anymore? So for me, if you're going to get it done, it has to be on a loan deal. And if we have to take on 65, 70% of his wages to get it done, I don't see why not. I do think it's more likely that he'll end up at Aston Villa, but that's his hometown, his home club. He's adored there. I'm sure he'd be adored at Tottenham as well. And given the Maddison injury and the Decky injury and the fact that we have a hole on the left-hand side that I'm not sure if Mathys Tel has proven yet that he's ready to fill in the full-time gig, and also, of course, Odebear, same probable outcome, same probable scenario, then you could make the argument that that Jack Grealish would be a good hole filler and not a permanent sort of decision. So you have that extra time, that 12 months to go and find that the long-term replacement, or give time for Odebear and Mathys Tel to step up and prove which one of those two is going to be the guy after the guy that is Heung Min's son. In terms of do I want Jack Grealish? I think it makes a lot more sense as he can play in the 10. And if you think about when was Jack Grealish at his very best in an England team, it was playing in the 10. I think it was against the Republic of Ireland. I know what you're going to say. But, I think that you could easily ask him to play in the 10 and give him more time on the ball, give him more opportunities to get involved in the game. Out on the left, he can also take players on, draw a lot of free kicks. And if you're going to sort of find a like-for-like replacement, Jack Grealish and Maddison, slightly different physiques, slightly different physicality, slightly different in certain aspects. But overall, I think both of them can be that kind of creator, that locksmith, and I guess that wow factor that Tottenham really need. Loan deal for me, if it's true. But like I say, guys, I think that the more likely destination for him will be late in the window, and it probably going back to Birmingham, to Aston Villa. Let's move on to the next story, guys. This one here is out of Graham Bailey. It's referenced by Football Talk, and they are saying that Tottenham are front of the queue to sign Randal Kolo Muani. According to Graham Bailey, the Frenchman came onto the scene having displayed impressive performances for Eintracht Frankfurt in the 22-23 season. And following that, the Parisians decided to buy him for a huge fee a couple of years ago. I think it was 90 million euros. The 26-year-old signed for the German side for free after running down his contract with Nantes. But after just 1 year, they managed to earn a big profit out of his departure. Muani couldn't manage to showcase his best at Parc des Princes, so he joined Juventus on loan. The forward showcased glimpses of his qualities at Alliance Stadium, making 13 goal contributions in 20 appearances in all competitions. But TBR Football Bailey states that Juventus want to make Kolo Muani's loan deal permanent, and the player is prioritising staying at the Giants. However, talks between the Bianconeri and PSG aren't progressing well. Anyway, long story short, we've heard of this before. Sorry, I'm reading that out loud, but we know this stuff. The full Kolo Muani is versatile, as he is comfortable playing in the centre forward positions as well as on the flanks. After almost a decade, the South Korean player is leaving Sunny, that is, to go to around 20 million, to go for around 15 to $20 million to LAFC. We're about to hear the finalisation on that deal, but Transfer Market are valuing Kolo Muani apparently at £26 million. But as I said to you before, I think £45 million or 45 million euros is all allegedly what PSG want for the player. But Juve right now are a little bit cock-blocked by the inability to move on players like Dusan Vlahovic. They have just moved on Timothy Weah to Marseille, and so they've got a little bit more space, but I do think they need to move one or two more players on before they can really make this deal permanent. Whether or not Tottenham are front of the queue is the question. I think the front of the queue might be because Tottenham will be willing to pay that money right now if there was interest from the player. But it takes three things to make a contract happen. The player has to want to come. And he turned us down in January. He looks like he'd rather go back and stay in Juve. Juve and Daniel Comoli seem to be saying there's no rush on this one. He wants to come to us, so we'll get it done when we want to get it done. But maybe PSG have got other intentions and want to move money around. We have that relationship. But again, is the problem here whether the desire of the club is there, the desire of the player is there to support us? Just quickly, guys, the other story regarding Rodrigo, as I say, the story from the 100 million euro bid, that's out in Court Offside today. It's out also in the Express and a few other broad tabloid newspapers as well. So I don't know whether there's any truth to it. As I say, I just report what's in the news and I'll bring it to you and we'll figure it out together. I highly doubt it, but the opportunity is there. And as I say, if Tottenham have the money to go in and fix the forward lines, then you have to do it. When you're taking the risk by getting rid of 9 youngsters and the injury problems we already have, and you know that Tottenham are going to have more injuries, then I think it's important that Tottenham make the right decisions. And if you're going to spend 100 million euros on one player when you probably need 3 or 4 more to come in, arguably I think you could go and spend that money on an Eberechi Eze, kill 2 birds with one stone, and get the Jack Grealish deal on a loan deal if you possibly can. And then maybe if Muani wants to come, great. If not, we'll see what else happens. Just for what it's worth, guys, there's other stories out for you today. Yves Bissouma. Tottenham have listed Yves Bissouma for transfer following the acquisition of João Palhinha on loan from Bayern Munich. The biggest name on the list there is West Ham United. Now, like I said to you before, I would love for Tottenham to go to West Ham and take Yves Bissouma with him and say, go to West Ham, go to the London Stadium, and then we'll take Lucas Paqueta back. I think he can play in the 8 and he can play in the 10. And then if you could go and get Richie Eze, Tottenham look good to me. Yves Bissouma is also of interest to Fenerbahce. We shall see. Tyler Dibbling, another story. Tottenham, this is from Team Talk, so take it with a pinch of salt, obviously, but Tyler Dibbling is still of potential interest to Tottenham Hotspur, despite the fact that Everton have put in a bid. I think Southampton right now are only looking for £25 million to £30 million for Tyler Dibbling. Remember in January, Southampton were asking for £100 million. Then it was 80, then it was 60, then it was 50. According to reports today, he's only going to be going for about 25 to 30. I would imagine it will have massive add-ons if he does go, depending on performance, or sell-on fees for the future. A super talent at that price point, by the way, I'd be more than happy to throw him in, as long as it's, again, not as the starting berth. But do we have too many wingers that are of that caliber already? Too many young guys? Listen, sometimes you just have to take the value. Chelsea would probably step in and buy him for 25 million if it was available, not caring that they already have 25 wingers, because they know they can loan him out and maybe sell him for 50 million quid in the future. It will be an interesting story. I'd imagine he'll end up somewhere at the top end of the country, though, maybe to Everton, maybe to Nottingham Forest, maybe somewhere like that. Maybe Brentford might come in and have a go as well. But Southampton are looking to sell, and the price point is dropping again. Ademola Lookman to Tottenham. The story is starting to emerge over in a couple of the aggregators. I'd love to see it. We haven't really seen Lookman to Tottenham links. I've been talking about how much I would love to see him come in forever. I think he's one of the 3 players that on the Y Scout, when you filter up and dial up all of those different options, or what you're looking for in a winger or in a forward generally, especially one that's versatile, Lookman, Gordon, and Garnacho were the 3 names that have come up. Garnacho seems to have set his heart on Chelsea. Not sure why, but he has. We'll see what happens there. Anthony Gordon won't be leaving Newcastle. And so of those 3, Ademola Lookman, look, it hasn't been done yet. And so the story to Inter Milan, maybe there's some sort of problems between Atalanta and Inter. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's just the fact that they don't want to sell him to a competitor in the same league. Maybe they'd rather sell him overseas. He's got experience in the Premier League. I think he played for Charlton, Everton, and Leicester. I really think he's a top draw player and someone that can bully players on the left-hand side and can step in and be versatile. He could also play in the 9 and even drop into the 10 if necessary. He really is a versatile player that can just do a little bit of what you need and a little bit of that take-on, terrorising kind of that specialism that I think that Tottenham need in that equal balance to be able to switch. Talking about switches, guys, you know how I talk about centre midfielders, defenders or 8s, defensive midfielders or 6s or 8s that have the ability to do all the things, the specific roles that you want in a player, and that you hope that they can also be able to switch the play into the channels. If you have terrorising take-on specialists on the right and the left, and then the benefit being that the back 4 have to turn into a back 5 and they don't know whether to allow their fullbacks the prospect of a one-on-one, or do they ask for help and bring across either the DM or the centre-back, and in so doing you can then move the ball into the middle to a 10 that's creative if we had one, and they can do their thing. Well, look, there's a player that Tottenham have been linked with called Marc Casado, and he is a wonderful, wonderful talent out of Barcelona's academy. He played 1,600 minutes for Barcelona last year, 2,600 minutes, I think, in total. I think he came from, is it Barca Athletic or something? They're kind of their second-tier club, or their feeder club, kind of their B, whatever you call it, the B team thing. And apparently that Tottenham have knocked on the door. Now, I'm not sure if Barcelona are interested in selling to Tottenham for the price that Tottenham have offered, but the stories are all out this morning saying that this guy is... he wants to apparently stay and fight for his place, but he knows that Barcelona are happy to sell him and trying to raise some money. He's been called a monster. He's been called a terror. He has been called brutal in the tackle. And I've watched him running through the Y Scout. I'll tell you what, whilst I agree with all of those things, he's fantastic at defensive football. I love, the best part about his game is his ability. When he wins that ball back, playing in the Barcelona system where you know you have the kind of the wingers that are out on the touchlines waiting for the space, his first thought is to look up and ping. So pings a lot. And it's a wonderful thing to see. They're driven, they're direct, they're not loppy, floaty passes. And I'll show you his stats on FB Refs just to give you a little taste. The red bars are things you're not going to expect from a player in his position. His passing stats are absolutely sensational. Pass completion overall is 89%. Look, it's still in the 92nd percentile for overall. Total passing distance, 1,043. A lot of his passes are medium length, so like those sort of chips over the top. He's not always banging the ball from his own penalty area into the channels to go into the long-range passing stats. In fact, it says here he's only doing that sort of 5 times a game, which isn't that much compared to other defensive midfielders. But when he does progress the ball, he's happy to chip it into the corners very, very acutely. And I love to see it. It's a really, really nice thing to watch. Just after you've won the ball back, pick it up, look, and ping. And and you can see his stats here sort of reflect that. Very, very impressive stuff. Defensively, of course, you're going to skip past these things and see the things you want to see as well from a DM. Now, look, I know we've signed Palhinha. I know we have Archie Gray that's coming through, and I thought Archie Gray did very well in the performance against Newcastle, and it's his best performance in the Tottenham shirt. But if Tottenham are looking again, maybe for one in the future, this is the story that you've got there to chew on. Very, very good at all the things you want from a DM that can pass and ping. Really impressive player. I don't think it will happen, or I don't think it will necessarily happen now. That wouldn't even suggest that we need to make it happen now. If I'm honest, I'm looking for someone who is just going to fill those forward holes and make us feel a little bit more reassuring in that phase 3, that final third, where we can convert more of the chances that we can create through the midfield. Palhinha for me, Archie Gray, Bentancur, Berghvall, Sarr. I'm okay there. If Tottenham want to go and get a Paqueta, superb stuff, then you've got an 8/10. If you go and get an Eze, you can ask him to drop deep if necessary. If you go and get a Jack Grealish, you can also play him in the middle. There's plenty of other options out there. I'd be very surprised if the Casado story comes off, but it's just one maybe for the future. 21 years old, like I say, one of their crown jewels, but they do want to sell him, but maybe not at the price point that Tottenham are looking to buy right now. Just finishing off for you guys, last sort of couple of stories. Luka Boskovic, as I say, we still have to figure out where his future lies. I'm very surprised that we want to go in that direction. Brian Hill is highly desired by Olympiacos, apparently. And Rodrigo Bentancur is also of interest to Fenerbahce. I'd be very surprised if Tottenham were to sell Bentancur at this stage, although he hasn't yet signed a new contract. So maybe he could be the make weight if you were to bring in a new 8. Lots of work to do. Other stories that are just percolating. Tottenham have once again shown interest in Alejandro Garnacho. We spoke about him, but he looks like he's off to Chelsea, so we shall see. And the last story for you guys is that Manor Solomon once again is being picked up in certain aggregators today and as a target for Leeds United. We'll bring in more stories as we get them, guys. That is it, though. Let me know your thoughts. Does it make sense that Tottenham Hotspur are getting rid of all of these loan guys and also facing the prospect of some of our injured players being super long-term injuries unless there is a clear plan and desire to spend some money this year? And with the percolating stories around the Kim lady and possibly the stadium naming rights deal and the Saudi takeovers and all these things, I just really, really hope that there is a lot of money coming in that we're not aware of yet that can allow Tottenham to take the high-risk effort of loaning out all of our young players with injured players when we still have holes to fill in the squad. Guys, I'll leave it there. Like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, bye-bye.